All right, let's get right into this. We're looking at a pretty wild presidential threat that got the whole world talking, and we're going to unpack an analysis that suggests there might be a very specific strategy behind what looks like, well, madness.
So it all starts with this. Imagine waking up on Easter Sunday and seeing this hypothetical tweet from a US president. It's a lot. The language is incredibly aggressive and the threats are super specific, targeting power plants and bridges.
And right away, you have to ask the big question. Is this just an unhinged rant from someone who's lost it? Or could this actually be a calculated, strategic move? It seems crazy, but let's explore that second possibility.
Okay, so first up, the threat itself. We're going to look at how everyone reacted and then dig into the core argument this analysis makes about what was really going on.
As you can probably guess, the immediate reaction was, well, chaos. The source points out that people were shocked. The conversation instantly jumped to things like the 25th Amendment, with a lot of folks just assuming the president had completely and very publicly gone off the rails.
But here's where the analysis offers a really fascinating twist. What if this wasn't an accident? What if the whole point of a tweet like this, with its specific deadline, was to deliberately create a crisis? To basically shrink the timeline and force Iran into making a decision, right now.
And that idea brings us to the central theory the source uses to explain all this. They call it the Dirty Harry Doctrine.
So, what we're talking about here is a very extreme form of something called coercive diplomacy. Now, the goal here isn't to start a massive war. No. The idea is to use the threat of force, or maybe limited force, to get your opponent to back down and change what they're doing.
And this is why the Dirty Harry comparison is just perfect. Remember that scene? The power Clint Eastwood has isn't that the other guy knows he'll shoot. It's that he has no idea. Is there a bullet in the chamber? Is this guy crazy enough to actually pull the trigger? That uncertainty, that's the real weapon.
Okay, so if the goal isn't to start a full-blown war, what is the objective exactly? What's the end game here, according to this way of thinking?
This slide really breaks it down. On one side, you have the old model. Regime change. That means invasion, nation building, getting stuck there for a generation, the kind of thing that shatters a country. But on the other side, you have coercion. This is totally different. We're talking targeted strikes, no occupation, and the goal isn't to destroy the state, it's to inflict very specific pain on the regime to force a change in behavior.
And according to this analysis, this isn't just one option among many. It's presented as the absolute narrowest path forward. It's the tightrope walk between a humiliating political climb down and a catastrophic all-out war.
So, if this is a real strategy, how can we tell if it's working? Well, the source lays out some very specific, real-world signals you need to watch for in the first 48 hours after a threat like this is made.
Here's the watch list. First, you watch the water. Are oil tankers moving freely? That might mean a quiet deal has been struck. Second, watch the words. Is Iran suddenly talking about technical arrangements? That's diplomat speak for, we're looking for a way out. Third, the military. You know, logistics don't bluff. You watch for actual movements. And finally, you watch Washington. Does the language shift from crazy threats to sober legal justifications? That could mean they're getting ready to act.
And all those signals are going to point to one of these three outcomes. Best case, a face-saving compromise is found. Things calm down, the crisis is over. Middle case, things stay tense, the clock basically gets reset, and maybe there's some kind of limited action. Or there's the worst case. The deadline passes, the strikes begin, and we find ourselves in a terrifying spiral of escalation.
And all of this leads to the final gamble, the absolute knife's edge that this entire strategy rests on.
It really all comes down to this one question. Is the world, and more importantly, is Iran, seeing credible strength? Are they hearing, I know exactly where the line is and we're not going to cross it? Or are they seeing dangerous volatility? Are they hearing, you know that line, I might just decide to redraw it anywhere at any time for any reason? The success of this whole thing depends entirely on which message they believe.
So we're left with this. Is a threat like this just a final countdown to war? A warning before impact? Or is it something else entirely? A high-risk, high-reward gamble designed to force an off-ramp, a way to avoid a conflict that nobody really wants. How the other side answers that question, well, that determines everything.